This video documentary is about the Executive Order 9066, where me and Garrett will delve into the horrors of American history. On February 19th, 1942, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066. This order gave the Secretary of War the authority to designate certain areas as military zones and exclude or remove any persons from these zones if necessary for national security. What I just told you is the maximum of what you would learn in the North Carolina curriculum. Executive Order 9066, like many things, is buried deep in the depths of human history, especially in standard curriculum. So it leaves a question. Why are things like these buried? Shouldn't we learn about them? One primary factor is the discomfort and shame that is often associated with the actions taken against Japanese Americans. Furthermore, this burying exemplifies American reluctance to confront and acknowledge the horrors of the past of American history. But Garrett and I don't have those fears. And throughout this video, we will delve into America's grim past, hoping to show the other side of American history, showing that maybe America isn't so perfect after all.
Denouncing Executive Order 9066 is a painful but necessary acknowledgement of the injustice during this time. The forced internment of Japanese Americans, including citizens solely based on ancestry, was a horrific violation of their civil rights. However, I think it's important to talk about it, to not only educate but also remember these tragedies so they will not be repeated. Before the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, Germany, under Adolf Hitler's leadership, had begun engaged in World War II for over 2 years. Germany had already achieved significant military success, including the conquest over Poland, Denmark, Norway, and France. Despite initial success, Germany's invasion of the Soviet Union had slowed down, leading to a long and costly war. Germany's actions had prompted Britain and France to declare war in 1939, leading to a broader conflict usually referred to as World War II. The attack on Pearl Harbor by Japan on December 7, 1941 would bring the United States into the war on the side of the Allies, significantly altering the course of this conflict. This attack on Pearl Harbor was a calculated strategy aimed at neutralizing the United States Pacific Fleet as a deterrent to Japan's military expansion in Southeast Asia. By crippling American naval power in the Pacific, Japan sought to secure its position as a dominant power in Asia and remove the threat possessed by the United States to expansionist goals. Due to this, military and political leaders, including Franklin D. Roosevelt, were under pressure to take decisive action in response to the attack. There was a perception that Japanese Americans could be collaborators or sympathizers with the enemy, further fueling calls for action. This pressure, felt predominantly in Congress and the Oval Office, led to a swift and radical response to Japanese Americans. Also during the time, the pre-existing racism and anti-Japanese sentiment in the U.S. played a vital role. Many Americans, influenced by racial stereotypes, actually supported the order during this time. The order basically stated that Japanese Americans would be relocated to internment camps for American safety during the time. So they were.
So what happened during this order? Well, for starters, 10 internment camps were built for Japanese Americans. These camps were usually located in remote areas across the western United States, and they were surrounded by barbed wire and guard towers. Japanese Americans were forcibly removed from their homes at gunpoint, their possessions reduced to just what they could carry. They were herded into cramped, hastily conducted barracks, where privacy was non-existent and sanitation facilities were rudimentary at best. Food was often spoiled, leading to widespread malnutrition and illness. Medical care was also sparse, with inadequate supplies and untrained staff. Many people suffered from untreated conditions, and deaths were pretty common. With the camps being surrounded by barbed wire and fences and guard towers, it created a constant atmosphere of surveillance and fear. Families were torn apart, with men and women and children often housed in separate areas. The psychological toll was immense, as people grappled with the loss of their homes, their freedom, and their sense of dignity. Despite these unbearable conditions, many Japanese Americans tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy, clinging to their cultural traditions and creating schools, churches, community organizations within the camp. Executive Order 9066, which authorized the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II, stands as a stark and shameful example of government-sanctioned discrimination. This order stripped away the civil liberties and dignity of thousands of innocent people based solely on their ancestry, a grave violation of the principles of justice and equality that are supposed to define America. The long-lasting effects of this order on Japanese Americans cannot be overstated. Families were torn apart and livelihoods were destroyed, and communities were shattered. The trauma of internment had been passed down through generations, affecting the sense of identity and belonging of Japanese Americans. Despite the formal apology and reparations issued by the U.S. government, the scars of internment continue to impact individuals and communities, serving as a painful reminder of the consequences of unchecked prejudice and fear.
Thank you for joining me, Garrett,
And me, Brennan,
and learning and the horrific tragedies of Executive Order 9066.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.